to She Plays the Podcast. Oh my gosh, do I have an episode for you today? I am joined by Sierra Myers and Kelsey Pfendler of Hericane Rowing. Sierra rowed in college for Pacific University, is a competitive powerlifter, lives in Portland, Oregon, met Jen, one of the Hericane Rowing teammates at Pacific University rowing team. Kelsey lives in Colorado, is a professional boatman in the Grand Canyon, which we'll also maybe chat about because that's like one of the coolest trips you could ever take. Works for a commercial guiding company as well as the USGS as a boatman for their fish studies, and was on the USA Women's Raft Race team. We're also here to chat about Hericane Rowing, which is amazing and we'll get to. But thank you both for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're really excited.
So Kelsey, tell me a little bit of like how you got into rowing and kind of a quick little bio on you of how you got to where you are today.
Okay. I started guiding when I was 18. It's actually funny. My mom took me on a rafting trip for my 18th birthday, and I was so infatuated with it, I decided to accost one of the guides after the trip and try to get as much information as I could out of them to figure out how I could become a guide. And I just started showing up every day. And I worked for free until they eventually gave me a job next year. But I got my credentials that way, and I've been guiding for 10 years and just followed the spark of what made me excited. So I went from starting in New York, moved to Colorado to work on some rivers out there, and eventually made my way to Grand Canyon. And through that, I found the U.S. Women's Raft Race team. I started competing with them, and we competed in Worlds in Bosnia this last year and did pretty okay. We came in second. So
that's fantastic. And just real quick, so I didn't even know that existed. There's so many things that from the beauty of this podcast, I learn it's like competitions that exist that are world competitions. And it's like, how have I never heard of this? That is awesome. How long has a raft race competition been in existence?
At least since the 80s.
Wow.
But it's not an Olympic sport, so it's got a lot less following, or just like a lot less attention because it's not an Olympic sport. But it will probably be an Olympic sport on track in the next 5 years or so. Perfect. Depending. They're really pushing for it to become an Olympic sport. But it's been around for a long time. Actually, this last competition that we did in Bosnia was the first time the US had podiumed in almost 20 years. So that was a really cool thing for us to have happen.
Yeah, congrats on that. That's awesome. Cool. And
Thank
Sierra,
you.
Same to you. Like, how did you get involved in rowing and to where you are today?
Well, I was a swimmer for about 14 years of my life. And so when I first kind of went into the collegiate level of swimming, that's what I did. And then when it kind of got to my junior year, I had a shoulder injury because of just the cartilage in my like left shoulder would just like dissipate because of how long I've been swimming for. And so, but because of the athletic personality that I am, I would go insane if I didn't have some form of physical outlet. So my mom actually suggested, well, you're like really tall and, you know, you have really long legs, so maybe you should look into rowing. And during my junior year, the rowing team at my my college just started up, and I was able to just kind of walk on to the team, and be like, okay, well, we'll try it. And then I just automatically fell in love with the sport. It's just such a thrilling and precise and executing sport that a lot of people think is just like, oh, it's just arms or it's just back. And it's like, no, it's like your full body and your full soul has to be put into the row. And then after college kind of ended, I started with powerlifting, just because that's something that I can practice on my own. I didn't have to have a team to go, row on the river or anything like that. And I've always been this like Swedish like powerhouse of a woman my entire life. And so I was like, okay, well, might as well put that to good use. And then, but I always missed rowing. And so when this opportunity kind of was presented to me by Jen, she was like, hey, like, check this out. I just had to hop on it because I missed it so much. And this seems like the most crazy, amazing opportunity in order to do that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, it's so cool. And I think even the sport of rowing in general is seeing a boost. And I think like that book, The Boys in the Boat, and like they're making a movie out of that, that's gonna give rise and more attention to just the general sport of rowing. But this is something different. So yeah, tell us about the Great Pacific Race and two, how Hurricane Rowing came to be. Yeah, I guess so. Sierra, you said your teammate Jen had reached out about Hurricane Rowing, but what is the history of this rowing company or Hericane Rowing?
Well, because Jen and I rowed in college together. So I was 7th seed and she was bow. And so we're very much like we grew really, really close together on the team, and we've been friends ever since then. We grew up kind of in the same realm in Oregon. And so she started following a team kind of pretty early on, and I didn't know about this kind of race until she kind of put me onto it. And so she kind of reached out with her sister. Her sister also was starting to following like different rowing teams from like the Atlantic campaigns and the Great Pacific Race campaigns. And so they were like, well, this is something we could actually probably do. And so Jennifer just sent me like a linker to the TikToks that Lat 35 was kind of pushing out. And she was like, hey, like, look at this. And I was like, when do we start? Like, when do we start doing this? And so we all had the initial meeting with the race coordinator. And we were like, are we all in? And then we said we are. So we put down our deposits, and then we met Kelsey through the online platform that people were trying to find teams to be on. And so we kind of recruited her. We were like, hey, like, let's meet. And so Jen kind of met with her personally, and then she kind of met the rest of the teammates later on. And then we just kind of clicked so well with what our goals are for this race that we were just like, it's a perfect fit. Like I couldn't imagine like finding anybody else who could to be a part of this team.
That's fantastic. And yeah, I mean, and cool that there was even like a platform to like find a team. So Kelsey, could you tell us like specifically about the race? Like, I guess, so it's called the Great Pacific Race. It's happening May 2024.
Mhm.
And yeah, so if you could tell us, because you just competed in like a river rafting, this is going to be ocean rowing. So could you tell us a little bit more of like what it is, how long it should take, kind of some of the dangers of it?
Oh,
Yeah, any of that?
should is a funny word. Um, yeah, so it's a race from San Francisco to Hawaii. It's 2,400 nautical miles. It's a rowing race, so you can do it in pairs, you can do it solo, or you can do it in fours or threes, really. There's all types of ways that you can form a team if you want to. But there's different categories for the race, obviously. We're racing against women's fours. But the race itself, should is a funny word for how long it should take. But the current women's world record is 34 days, 14 hours, and 11 minutes currently. So we're trying to get as close as possible to that as we can. But depending on how many people you have, it depends on how fast it will be. Yeah, so the structure of the race for us would be 2-hour shifts. So we row in pairs. There's 4 of us. So we row in pairs for 2 hours and then rest for 2 hours and then repeat 24 hours a day. You sleep, eat, live within those 2 hours of rest, and then get back on the oars and try to make it to Hawaii as fast as you can.
For 34 days. Yeah. And I am with you on the should, right? The whole phrase, like, don't shit on yourself. That's actually like a really healthy way of thinking about it. So have either one of you done something like that, like an endurance kind of thing like this, where you're not sleeping for long chunks of time?
Kelsey
I
has.
don't know of many races where you don't sleep that much. I've sailed from Valencia, Spain to the Caribbean, and we were sailing. You have to do shifts as well. So we were doing 4-hour shifts though. So when we were doing night watches, it was broken up a little more. So I got 4 hours of sleep. So that's the closest thing I think I've done to like a lot of like lack of sleep and doing shifts like that. But our crossing sailing the Atlantic was, I think, 25 days. So kind of similar, but not the 2 hours. The 2 hours will be interesting because I don't even know if you can get into like a REM sleep within that time period. So that'll be a new experience, I think, for all of us.
Maybe your bodies will adapt, right? Like maybe after 14 days, it's just like, okay, this is what I get. Let's get them
We'll
into
just start
REM sleep.
hallucinating and it'll be great.
Also that maybe, yeah. Yeah, but wild. So I guess like one, and already I know I have way more questions than our time will allow. So please come back in a couple months and like let's hear how you're doing and talk more if you're willing.
Yeah,
Um,
we'd love to.
Sure.
but just I know like one thing would maybe be like morale management. How do you kind of prepare, or is that like individually? I know there's like some mental toughness training probably for this. Is there like a captain of the team, or like how does the structure work, Sierra?
So we have to have a skipper. That's part of the requirements. And so skipper is like the captain who makes the calls during the row. And so we've talked to a lot of other people who've actually done crossings before, and they were very much saying that, well, the skipper on the row kind of comes out during training. And so we're still in the phase of, we're still trying to get funding. We're still trying to like get the boat. So this is very much in like the early stages of it. But there's going to be, I think there's a land skipper and then there's a sea skipper.
Okay.
And so there could be totally two different people. And so basically, our land skipper, I think, is Jen, even though she probably won't admit it. But she's very much like she keeps track of everything, like she's our spreadsheet queen. And we're just there to kind of help push our agendas and stuff like that. But she's our main kind of force when it comes to the land stuff. But as far as the sea skipper goes, I think because the person who we deem as skipper makes kind of like the tight calls, and so making sure that we're heading the right direction. If we're, not on the same page as a team, in terms of decision making, that's when she kind of pulls the line. And so that'll kind of be more present as we kind of along with our training, I think.
Awesome. Cool. And Kelsey, is it where any team competing, do y'all leave on the same, like launch on the same day, or is it just like in this window there are people racing? How does that work?
Yeah, they for everyone that's competing in the Great Pacific Race, everyone launches on the same day, and you can track them on a little marine tracker app that anyone can get. They're called Dot Watchers, and you can watch the tracking in progress and see everyone kind of disperse out throughout the race because no one's going to go at the same pace. But yeah, we all start at the same time, but they really spread out over the course of the race.
Awesome. And yeah, I guess so you've got another boat that goes along with you where you can sleep for I guess emergencies, I guess, or no?
No, this is an unsupported race. We have a boat that exists for the whole race that is there in case you want to, if something so horrible goes wrong that you need someone to come and help you, but you're pretty much not part of the race after you come and receive help from that. So the boat is just there just in case of emergencies, but it's completely unsupported. Anything that needs to happen, we have to do. So we have to know how to fix anything that can break, carry everything that we need to make the trip happen, be pretty completely self-supported for everything. So we can't just jump on the boat if we're feeling tired. We sleep, eat, live on our boat and bring everything we need to be self-sufficient. And if we can't be self-sufficient, then the race is kind of over.
So you're sleeping on the boat that you're rowing on. Oh my gosh, this
Yeah,
is
so
way more intense. Sorry, go ahead.
it's got two cabins for the fours. So there's different types of boats, but we're rowing a 4-person boat, and there's a cabin on the front and a cabin on the back. And they're both watertight cabins, and you can squeeze 2 people in there at a time, but usually it'll just be one at a time because we're rowing in shifts. And that's where you sleep, and then you come out and do your row, and it's kind of just like a rotating bed for rest in between that. And they're also watertight because the boat is self-righting. So if we get into a storm and we have to throw out the sea anchor, and we all get in the cabins and we wait, and if it happens to capsize, it's ideally going to turn itself back over.
Oh
And
my
that's why
gosh.
we want the cabins to be watertight. So we'll just be
Oh
in
my
there kind of
gosh.
like
This
little
is in
sausages.
So then you've got 34 40 days worth of food. Oh my gosh, this is
Yeah.
like a
Yeah,
rowboat
we have to
in the
bring
Pacific Ocean. Sorry,
five
go ahead.
we have to bring 5,000 calories per person per day
Wow.
per the race. So it's a
Wow.
lot of food.
Can you fish off? No, I'm kidding. Totally kidding. You don't have time to do that. Wow, this is insane. This is way I was thinking like, oh yeah, they'll have a boat where they like sub people off. Oh my gosh. Y'all are badasses. This is insane. Um, Real quick, just because I know time is shorter on the end of this one, talk to us about the funding. Like, talk to us, yeah, like what do you need? How do you get it? You know, how can people support Hericane Rowing, all that good stuff?
Well, for the funding, we create the funding all on our own. And so we have like a funding packet that we're going to be sending out. Usually we get sponsorships. So we just kind of the word of mouth, getting to connection with people. That's going to be our main source of revenue here. We have kind of a helpful network with the rates itself, but we have to go out and raise the money for ourselves. And so that's why we're kind of working towards a cause of, making sure that, it's not just us that benefits from this race, it's also, women's sports in general. So, we have specific packets in terms of like really high tier sponsorships, but and if anybody wants to kind of donate like $5 for a packet of food, or, a med kit or something like that, or just wants to kind of be a part of like what we do, like that's what we want. And so you can kind of message us directly through our Instagrams, or our TikTok, or we also have a direct email as well, just for kind of more information, because we want to make sure that you know where your money is going to go. That's the main thing, is that's kind of how funding works. So we love to work with companies, but we also have the ability to work with individuals as well.
Awesome. That's fantastic. We'll put all those links in the show notes. But real quick, if there is like either you want to share the email right now, or any Hericane Rowing socials, you mind sharing those?
Yeah, sure. So our Instagram is literally just Hericane Rowing, HERIKANE Rowing. And our TikTok is Hericane_Rowing. So you can follow those at any time. And we'd be happy to have you. And we also share multiple progresses on those as well.
Awesome. TikTok, that's a smart platform to get ahead of, especially
we're trying to have fun with it too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, and like you've got over a year of preparation time. People are gonna love to tune in, I think, and see how it's going and how you're progressing. So I think that's awesome. Yeah, well, okay. So like I said, yeah, you've got a year till you do it. I'd love to have you back on, hear how things are going, hear how people, listeners, companies can help, just as you continue to prepare. This is amazing. I can't even like tell you how mind blown I am. And just like the bravery that you have to take something like this on. But how cool is this? Like, how cool is this? This is amazing.
I know we feel the same way. We're like, this is so cool. Why don't more people know about it? And so thank you for having us on the show, because it really just kind of spreads the word about what we're doing. That's like the main thing. It was like, this is so cool. This is so cool.
It is. It is. Well, real quick, can I ask just a couple rapid fire questions before we go? Okay, so
Fire
Kelsey,
away.
Absolutely.
we'll start with you answering, Kelsey. What is your like pump up song? Like you're getting ready to get in the boat, or you're in the boat and you're just, what makes you row faster, I guess?
Oh, I have like an entire playlist that I think I've completely relied on for most of my lifts, but currently it's some of the new Britney Spears that I've been listening to.
Nice. Okay.
It just feels very powerful right now for me.
That's perfect. Stronger. Yeah.
I like that for like our lifting workouts right now.
Awesome. Sierra, what about you?
It's probably Break My Soul from Beyonce,
Okay.
because it's such a it's like, you can't break my soul, and it's like, yeah, you can't. And it's such an uplifting like song in general, and I'm just like, yeah, it really speaks to me.
Awesome.
So
Very
I would
cool.
say that one.
What has been your favorite either place to race, or just favorite place to race in any of your competitions?
Well, I for me, I'd probably just say the last competition I did was in Bosnia, and that was a really cool experience for me. So the rivers were cool, the people were amazing, the competitions were really, really challenging and awesome. So that was probably my favorite.
Cool.
Mine in terms of rowing was up near Seattle. We had to row like under the bridge, and like there's this like with like Washington State, they have this invitational, and it was like really cool to see like all the people on the bridge as you're kind of fishing out the race. And of course, like my body's on fire, so I didn't really look up. But it was really cool to kind of experience um like the camaraderie around rowing at its full height.
That's awesome. Very cool. And just last question, I love to ask this one. If you could get free tickets for life for any sporting event, you get them like every time it happens, if it's like every 4 years at the Olympics or every year for like a national championship, what are you getting free tickets for life for?
Free tickets for life for. Oh, I would have to say the Olympics. I mean, if I could go, that would just be amazing. And I mean, bang for your buck, how many things you could see, how
True.
many
Very true.
competitions you could see.
Okay, cool. Sierra?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I ever since watching the like Olympic trials for swimming and seeing I just want to be
Michael
a part
Phelps.
of Michael Phelps and then Katie Ledecky.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Watching Katie Ledecky would just blow my mind, honestly,
Same.
because she's just such a powerhouse. And I would love to kind of see that in all forms. And so probably the Olympics, probably the Summer Olympics specifically.
Yeah, she's like out the door, packed up, ready some races when like the rest of the competition's still swimming. It's unreal.
Yeah,
She's just
no,
unreal.
she blows my mind. Like she's my favorite probably athlete of all time, because she's just like, she's so intense in the water, and then when she like pops out, she's like la da 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 da, like super happy and super super personable, and like she doesn't really have like a menacing bone in her body, but like the way she races is just so inspiring to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. High praise. Yeah, well, thanks again for coming on. Like I said, we'll put the links in our socials. Do you guys want to do a personal social follow shout out? Like where can people find you two on socials?
Yeah, so my socials, you can follow me on Instagram at Big Mama Bull Myers. And I know. A lot of my friends call
I love
me
it.
Mama Bear, so that's where that came from. And then my TikTok is linked in that bio as well.
Okay.
And yeah, I just have Instagram. It's just my name, Kelsey Pfendler.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks again so much for coming on today, and I look forward to our next chat.
Yeah, no
Thank you so
kidding.
much for having us.